Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So happy to see you all here today. I just have to do one thing. I am not hearing my sound for some reason. It's not playing on YouTube. It should be playing now. It should be playing now. I can't seem to get the beginning on YouTube. I can only start with this screen. So I kind of start on YouTube at the same time. One day I'm going to get proficient enough to be able to do it all at the same time. All right. So now hold on one second because I need to do one thing here. Let's get my sound, figure out where my sound is coming from because I'm not hearing. All right. Let's see if that's working. No, it should be this one. All right, let me see what's going on here. Everyone, can you hear me fine out there? Let me know. Send me a really quick message. Let me know that you can hear me. Maybe I just have to wait until my guest is on to see if I can hear her. So let's just get started. I'm hoping that it's all going to work out all right. So again, welcome to everyone who is out there in the Twitterverse, all the YouTubers and Twitchers. Welcome to the Inequality Podcast. I'm your host, and I want to say thank you for taking the time out today to join in. Of course, I like to always start with introducing my beautiful, wonderful moderators. Sweet Jamaica is in the house. She's in the chat and here to make you comfortable. If you have any questions, she's going to be kind of the in between you and me. So Sweet Jamaica is going to be handling the Twitch stream today, along with Sweet Jamaica. I'm sorry, I said Sweet Jamaica already, along with Jazzy Mimi. Jazzy Mimi and Sweet Jamaica are going to be taking care of you guys out there in Twitch land. And then I have, last but not least, Resh in the Flesh, who's going to be monitoring our YouTube chat today. So please engage. The mods will take very, very good care of you. If you have any questions, please just highlight them. Any comments that you want me to specifically address, please highlight them. And of course, mods, if you don't see that I have addressed it yet, please go ahead and get that taken care of for me. Bring it to my attention so that I can make sure that our guest today is aware of the questions and we address everyone. So again, I'm Twana's Twitch, and this is the Inequality Podcast, where we aim to be that space between inequality. The mission is to provide the space to learn, grow, shift our perspectives, share ideas, learn from one another, and challenge social norms in a positive way. We will work to move from having that conversation to effective action. Lots of podcasts out there are having the conversation, but my focus and my goal with this podcast is to actually start a movement. We will work to move from having the conversation to effective action, as I just said, disrupting the complacency that we have towards inequality in the richest country in the world. Every subject will be approached with an open mind and the chance to see things in a different light, and hopefully do the same for the audience. Being in this space means that we advocate for people to really have equal opportunities, to improve their lives, to remove our blinders so that we can see others, help others to remove theirs so that we can see other people, meet them where they are. Recognize that everyone wants and deserves the same things in life, and that includes living in neighborhoods that are safe, free of crime, thriving, and not just surviving. So today, my special guest is Dr. Carlian Dawson. Man, this is such a powerful woman. I'm going to just bring her into the stream here really quick so we can see her while we are talking to her. Now, Dr. Dawson, how are you today?
I am well. Thank you so much, Twana, for inviting me to be here today. I am so excited to be with you.
I am excited as well. So now that I have you on here, before we dive in, let me just read this wonderful bio of yours. When I tell you this woman is impactful, phenomenal, amazing, I'm not just saying that. I'm going to tell you why she is. Dr. Carlian W. Dawson has over 30 years experience as a leadership consultant. Her clients range from corporate CEOs, school district superintendents, to new managers and principals. Senior management and educational leaders benefit from her skillful coaching, training, and development techniques. Most notably, she has received high acclaim for organizational and leadership development and diversity education. According to her clients, Dr. Dawson's strength lies in her ability to get to the heart of the matter, separating confusion and chaos in complex or difficult situations. Dr. Dawson is a retired principal who understands school leadership and believes success critically begins with the school principal. From the top down, y'all. It is the principal's leadership skills which determines whether a school becomes a dynamic learning organization or another underperforming school. Through direct coaching and support or in-district teams, Dr. Dawson helps principals develop the leadership skills they need to effectively manage the day-to-day challenges and interactions they face. As an independent educational consultant working for the Arizona Department of Education, coaching principals and school leadership teams towards school improvement. Man, Dr. Carlian Dawson is the Director of Education for the Arizona Center for African American Children, a nonprofit organization. She is a co-developer of 2 programs, Master Trainer of Trainers for Adverse Childhood Experiences for the Arizona ACEs Consortium, and a Master Trainer of Trainers for Neurosequential, I had to practice that a few times, Neurosequential Model for Caregivers from the Arizona Council of Human Service Providers. Dr. Dawson is a trained and certified in nurturing parenting, triple P, PACS tools, strengthening multicultural families and communities, and protective factors. We'll ask her to explain all that in just a minute. Dr. Dawson has approximately 10 combined years in University of Connecticut Wesleyan University and Purdue University, where she served as diversity director, university administrator, and adjunct associate professor, respectively. Carlian has a Bachelor of Science from Grand Canyon University, a master's in multicultural education and education administration from Arizona State University, and a doctorate in educational leadership from Illinois State University. Oh my goodness, I tell you, it is just an honor to have you here, Dr. Dawson. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It is my honor to be here with you. You have no idea. If you all only knew, I've known Tawana since she was, I don't know, between 10 and 12 years old. And it's just, I'm just so amazed at her accomplishment and what she's doing today and how you are just reaching and impacting the world through these podcasts.
Thank you so much. That means a lot to me. I appreciate you too. It's as old as I am, it's hard to believe that I've pretty much known you all of my life.
Yeah. And how
time flies when you're having fun.
It was really, really odd, you know, but I'm so glad we did.
All right. So let's just start by me just asking, what was the best part of your week?
You know, the best part of my week is always with my grandchildren. I have a 2-year-old grandbaby, Bryce's daughter, and she is just a delight. We get the opportunity to watch her twice a week, and I am amazed. I spend more time with her during these critical years than I actually did with my own children, because, you know, when we're working mothers and all that, we're so busy trying to make ends meet and, you know, provide for our families.
Yes.
That critical involvement, you know, we may be involved, but we miss a lot of things. And I've seen more growth in her than I did in my own children. I've got 7 of them. I've got, you know, so I've seen more growth in her than I did in them.
I agree. It's just something about being a grandparent. And I always say, you know, when you're a parent, you're just kind of in that day-to-day grind. You're trying to get them to school, get them here, do this, do that, do this, make sure they're taken care of. But as a grandparent, you get to sit back and just like, oh, and see like maybe some of the things that you miss with your kids that you can do with the grandkids and just have fun with them.
Right. Absolutely. That's it. And I enjoy her so much. She is just an amazing little girl. And then I have some older grandchildren that I'm also, you know, enamored with. So they all have my heart. And, you know.
Yeah. So you started to talk a little bit about your family. Tell us a little bit about more marriage, your husband, your kids.
Well, I have been married to the um, one of the to my friend who is just so, he's such a loving person. I love my husband so much. He is just he is just he's just the man of my heart. And when I say God put us together, I truly mean that. God put us together, because there's no way. And he tells me all the time, no one could put up with me like you do. And I say, well, no one could put up with me like you do. Uh, because we were meant to come together. And because of that, there is nothing, I mean, we don't have um, things that stand out that we get tired of each other with. You know, we laugh, we had laugh and have fun to this day. We
That's
enjoy
awesome.
being with each other.
That's awesome. That's everyone's goal, right? Black love.
Yeah,
I love it.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, I'm
And
so
we've been
happy to
married
have
now.
you.
This is our 37th year.
37 years.
Mhm.
Congratulations. That is exciting. I'm so old now that if I ever get married again, I don't know that I'll ever see that many anniversaries in my lifetime.
Yeah.
But that's
Well,
okay.
I'll just tell you, yeah, I mean, it's possible because when I married, I was 35 when I married the second time. So,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah. I'm way past that, though, right?
I know, but I'm just telling you, there's still hope.
Awesome. Well, before we really dive in, I just want to make sure that I reiterate for those who didn't start right off with us, that if you have any questions, if you have any comments that you want us to make sure that we address, please highlight those questions and comments. We are going to be making sure that we get to all of you. So please engage in the chat. And engage one another. And I just wanted to say hello to everyone who is here already. Sweet Jamaica's made it, of course. Resh in the Flesh, Dr. Dawson is actually my daughter. So you'll see her come through there. She
Oh my
helps me out.
goodness.
I appreciate her so much. Psalmist is in the building as well. Thank you so much for coming in, Psalmist. I appreciate you taking the time out of your Saturday and joining us. All right, we're going to dive right in because I have a feeling that this is going to be a long conversation. So let's just talk specifically about the organizations that you've worked with over the years and who you're working with currently.
Oh my gosh. I have worked with organizations across the nation, school organizations, and it's been a lot of my can here in Arizona. I've worked with the Roseville School District. I've worked with the Gervin School District. That's a charter school. I've worked with the Avondale School District. Um, Not Avondale. I'm sorry. I work with Pendergast School District. Um, and so it's been several of them. I have a district in California that I work with. So it's been several of them.
That's amazing. I feel like your work is so broad, or should I say, your reach is so broad, and the work that you're doing is just amazing. How did you find yourself kind of on this path of
Gosh, that's
studying
such a good
trauma?
question. That is such a good question. I was a principal when I left Arizona. We went to Illinois. I just had a calling to get back into education, and I went back in as a principal, and and it was there. You know, I always thought when I first started teaching school that me as a teacher that I was reaching the kids, and that's what I needed to do, is to help the kids. I didn't understand that really there was more to it at that time. And then when I became a school administrator, I thought, okay, I'm going to help the teachers. Okay. And then working at the university level, I thought I'm going to help the professors. I'm going to help the students. And and then only until I come back to Arizona again, I was gone for 15 years and got back to Arizona. And it's like an epiphany. Um, I know that I am an excellent teacher. I know that. That's my calling. And so I was I was working, and it just hit me that parents are the people that I really need to work with. because and then I heard this presentation about the neurosequential model and ACEs, and I thought, oh my gosh, when they talked about it, it spoke to my heart, because all the students that I'd had in my school in Illinois, the issues that they talked about was, I could see them there. And so I thought, and everybody always said that these kids were bad. These kids were, they had no right upbringing. They were just
Yeah.
all these, and that's not the case. That's not it at all. And the issue that happened is that most of the children, they were being traumatized. And when you talk about trauma disorganizes the brain's development at the
Wow.
lowest level, which is, in the brainstem. It starts there. It disorganizes it. And if it's disorganized there, getting to the top where the prefrontal cortex is a challenge. And, you can't get there because
Right.
the things that's going on inside, inside the brain. But trauma disorganizes brain's development. If you don't feel safe and secure and you're not satiated, then you're not going to really develop a good, your brain structure is not going to be like it should be. If there's always issues going on, if there's always trauma, there's always something going on, that's
Yeah.
how that's how your brain is going to. And someone said to me one time, says, oh yeah, sounds like you're saying that trauma programs your brain for a future response. And it does. The trauma you're experiencing today, it programs your brain. I mean, the trauma you experienced back then
Yes.
programs your brain for another time when whatever's going in your life that's similar to what happened then shows up again, you respond to it. And our response is always messier, more than what it should be when we're responding to it.
Yeah, and that, I feel like it's only been within the last maybe 5 years that I've even had this, the subject of trauma even come into my life. I don't know that we even understand that the little things that we experience causes trauma in our brains, and then it affects how we react to a whole lot of things.
Yeah, it does. It does. So when you think about trauma, there's three parts to trauma. There's an event that happens, like the pandemic. Now you think about this. The pandemic affected all of us differently. Okay,
Yeah.
there's the pandemic, and then when you think about uh, hold on one second. When you think about how, whoops, when you think about this event, this traumatic event, then based on that event, there's an experience that happens. So this event, this pandemic that happened, the COVID-19, that
Yeah.
was the event. The experience I had may have been different from the experience you had, and it impacts us differently. Some of us, that experience was very hard. Some of us, that experience brought our families closer together.
Yeah.
Some of us lost everything, the experience, and some of us gained a lot. So the experience,
Absolutely.
it depends on us. And then there's the effect, and that effect of that experience, how you receive it. You can, if just because something sounds horrific, you may not receive it. It may not be horrific for you. Or just because something sounds like it's not a big deal, it may be a big deal for you. So the effect, so it's the event that happens, the experience that happens from it, and then the effect of it. And all of that speaks to how that trauma is being dealt with. So just as a
Wow.
case in point, remember with the at the Oscars when Will Smith slapped Chris Rock?
How could I not remember that?
Okay, that slapping, that was the event, the experience. Okay, when you think about the experience, what caused that to happen? Now, I don't know Will Smith. I don't talk to him, but I read some books by him that he wrote, that he wrote. And he talked in this book about how when he was little, how he would watch his dad beat up his mother. And he said that he would never let anybody when he get older be hurt again. But and so again, like I say, we often when the reaction to it is often worse than more than what it should be.
Yeah.
So in this case, that was the experience, and the effect was he slapped the stew out of Chris Rock.
The slap heard around the world.
Yeah, and so, the effect of that, when he had the opportunity to really apologize for that, let me back up. The experience, if you look at and I had to play this over and over and over again on my TV, I had to go back and forth on the experience. Will Smith was laughing when Chris Rock was talking about Jada's hair. And then he looked at Jada and she was rolling her eyes. And I believe something happened with Will Smith where he had a flashback. And, and that's just how quick flashbacks can happen. Wow. He had a flashback on an experience he had before, and he reacted to that flashback. Okay.
Right.
And then the effect, of course, has been really, detrimental to him.
Yes.
But it's just that we don't realize that there are three pieces to this when we're happy, when we're in a situation like that.
Absolutely. I want to just share real quick. I know you sent me a slide presentation. We're not going to do the whole presentation, but I thought we could just really quick go over the part about the colors. And I have not looked at this. I wanted this to be my first experience doing it. So let me see if I can pull this up for everyone real quick.
Okay, before you do that, I want you to look at that slide number 2.
Yes, we're going to start there.
To that. If you show slide number 2,
okay,
let's start with that one.
Okay, let me get it up here for us.
Okay.
So, me and technology, we used to be really good friends before Twitch. So now I'm just reacquainting myself with the intricacies. All right, so I'm going to share my screen first, and then we'll start the slideshow. All right. Oh, I love that it's doing it that way. All right, so we're going to just do this from the beginning.
Go to slide number 2.
All right, slide number 2. Here we go.
That's what I want you to, because I really want you to understand what trauma is and how it's defined. And this is by Dr. Bruce Perry, who is my mentor. Dr. Bruce Perry wrote the neurosequential model. I went through a 3-year program with him, meeting every week and talking about trauma. And he says he did a brain dump on us, and he did. But I really appreciate the research he's put into this. And he says that trauma can be defined as a psychological, think about it, as an emotional response to an event or an experience that is deeply distressing or disturbing. And you think about COVID again, it was deeply distressing and it was deeply disturbing. But there's another definition that's not up here that I wanted to share with you that is by our Native American brothers and sisters. And they said this about trauma. They said trauma is a wound to the soul.
Oh.
It's a wound to the soul.
Short and sweet.
Oh my gosh, yes. That's what he's saying here. But it is a wound to the soul. And you think about it, the wounds to our soul cannot be seen by anybody. The wounds to our soul can be very deep, and when these and they're hard to heal. They're hard to heal.
Yeah, and how aware are we even of the wounds that we receive that's affecting our spirit? Because sometimes we don't even know how we're being affected by the trauma that we incur every day.
Sometimes Most of the time, most of the time we're not even aware. We don't know. We just know. We just think, oh, they just acting crazy. Oh, they just, they're just, that's just the way they are. We have no idea. That's why this was so important to me when I heard about this and I thought about all those children. I cried, Twana. I cried because I kept thinking, all these babies, they were saying that they were, crazy and blah, blah, or ADHD and all this stuff. And
Yep.
they weren't.
Right.
They weren't. We just
They
didn't
were
know how
just,
to speak to them.
I mean, as adults, if we don't even know how to deal with trauma, how do we expect babies? How do we expect
Right,
for our
right.
babies to deal with that trauma?
Exactly, exactly, exactly.
And if we don't address it early, then it just festers. I feel like that
And
wound just gets bigger and bigger, and it's
yeah,
harder to cure.
yeah. And you know what? And the trauma began for us with the enslavement, being captured and being brought over. That's when our the trauma is transferable and it goes from generation to generation.
Absolutely. We're going to dig into that really, really deeply today because, you know, I always feel like if we as adults don't kind of heal ourselves to deal with the trauma that we have, then it's going to be that much harder to help our children to even learn how to cope to deal with their trauma. And then forget about, our neighborhoods and our communities. We all, as Black people, I think, have some healing to do when it comes to how we've survived our
Yeah,
history here in this
yeah,
country.
yeah, yeah. And that's why I'm starting where I'm starting with this. There's so much, so much to talk about in here. And whatever piece I pick out, I always think, oh, I should have done something. I should have got a different piece. I should have done this one. I should have done that. And I've been thinking that this morning, but I've got what I've got, and we're gonna go. We're gonna start. We're gonna keep moving. So now you can go to the next slide because I want to show
Yes.
you that this exercise we're gonna get to.
Next slide. All
Okay,
right.
so being trauma informed, we understanding what's going on is just being informed about it. And when you've got the means, when your organization says that they want to become trauma informed, there's a lot that goes into that. They just can't say and then all of a sudden they are, because this stuff is deeply rooted, is what we call, is ubiquitous, is in everything, the air you breathe, the breath, every breath you take, every bite of food you take, is in there, it's in it. It is ubiquitous. It's in everything you see, smell,
That
taste,
song
breathe.
comes to my head I don't know if you were quoting that song or not, but my brain is made of music, and so the song is playing in my head. Every step you take. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, right.
Sorry to interrupt.
So it's there. It's in everything. And in everything in our, when we're at work, our policies that we have are deeply rooted in trauma. The things that we've done, the things that we say, if in the Constitution, it's the traumatic things that are in the Constitution.
Absolutely.
We don't have enough time to go back and talk about that. And what was written to make sure that people that look like you and me were not made whole, that we were
Yes.
only granted 3/5 of a person. And so when you think about that, that's traumatic. And you think about even with all the things that are going on now, when you think about have you ever walked into a room and you get there and you realize nobody's there, looks like you except for you?
I grew up in Phoenix, so yeah.
So it's like when you walk in, it's like something happens and you don't know what it is, but it's up to you to make the adjustment, not everybody else. You have to make the adjustment. No one has to adjust to you. And that's what we're talking about. That's where trauma lies. We're always the ones who are making the adjustment, always the one trying to make things right.
My goodness, Dr. Dawson, you hit the nail on the head so much. And then it's something that I don't even think that we don't even recognize it. My last my last job before the one I have now was with a regional food bank here in Arizona. And I was the only Black person in the office. There's no one else that looked like me. And then I actually was, had to have a boss who didn't even see me as being Black. And she told me this: I don't even see you as being Black, Twana. I just see you as a good project manager. So she only saw me for what I did and not for who I am. And it always pisses me off when white people say that. I don't see color. I don't even see you as that. Well, if you don't see me as that, then you're not seeing me. You're not seeing me. And it just makes me so mad.
Calm down. Because it does. And that's what we have to deal with all the time. And now, since George Floyd, I hate the fact that he was killed the way he was killed, but he really is a change agent in that because of what happened, our voices are more clearly heard now. Unfortunately, no, for him. But fortunately, our voices are more clearly heard now. And so now, and there was a lot of agencies who were trying to make right that wrong. They knew that this was wrong. Let's go to the next slide, because I just want to make sure I just touch on some things, because all of these. So there. When we talk about what's going on, there is this study that this professor did, Professor Eric Gervin out of Oregon State University. He did this little study on implicit biases. And what he did was, I want to get my timer here, because what he did was he wanted to understand how deep implicit biases are. So he developed this little activity, and you're going to be able to take this. And this is it. You automatically understand the meaning of a color word and the color in which the word is displayed. So when you see green and it's green, the color is green, you know that's green.
Right.
So, but there's some in it. It is inhibited when we think, if we see green, but it's written in red, it's harder. You don't think it's harder to process, but it's harder to process because you see green, but it's written in red. Okay. So it can be hard for us to process that information. And with implicit biases, when we see someone who looks like us, who talks like us, who acts like us, and Twana, when they were saying that you didn't seem Black, they thought they were giving you a compliment, because what they were saying is that you're more like us than like Black people. So, and they thought they were giving you a compliment. But so they identified with you. And in order for them to identify with you, they couldn't see you as a Black woman.
Right.
Okay. That's why they didn't see color. They couldn't see you as that Black woman. They had to see you as something different.
To make them more comfortable, probably, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, because if they see you as a Black woman, well, everybody knows that angry Black woman, goes off, cusses people, and all these negative things that really speak to what they're thinking about us, and sometimes what we think about us. Okay.
Yes.
Because we've done it it's been happening for so long. So this is what I want you to do. Go to that next page.
All right.
So what I want you to do, I'm going to give you 15 seconds. And I want you to read off in your own mind all of this, and then when you stop, look at your timer and just see how long it took you to read through all of it. You should have it all done within 15 seconds, but I'll give you 15 seconds. Okay. So in your own mind, I want you to read them off. We're going to start at the beginning. Ready? Go. When you finish, note the time.
Okay. All right. I'm done. I think that took me about 10 seconds.
Time's up. Time's up. We got it. I got that. We got that.
Okay.
Okay. So now if you put in your box there, what was your time that you got read all of those through?
I think it was like 12 seconds, right?
You did yours 12 seconds?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? Can they hear me and put in the chat?
Yeah, for those of you who are tuning in right now, if you're participating, hopefully you're participating in here, put how long it took for you to read through all of the colors in the chat. 12 seconds, 9 seconds, 10 seconds,
Right.
however long it took for you to read through all of them.
Whatever it took, just put it in there. Okay.
All right, we've got 11 seconds. All right.
Okay, so now this is what we're going to do. We're going to do this again. All right. Read the color, not the word. Okay. All right. Change pages, Twana.
Okay. I'm changing pages, and then we're going to read the color and not the word.
The word.
Okay.
And do the same thing, 15 seconds.
All right. All right. Here we go.
Go.
Oh.
Read the color, not the word.
Ooh.
Okay, time's up.
I didn't even get past the second
line. And that's typical. That's typical. Because see, when you see somebody who doesn't look like you, there's this consternation. You're going through something trying to make it fit. And when it doesn't fit, okay, when it's outside what you believe is, if this is outside what you believe is right, okay, that's where the implicit biases lie.
Absolutely. And everyone is saying the same thing. I just started the second line. Someone else said they didn't even finish.
Because they can't, because when you see somebody who doesn't look like you, it causes stuff to happen inside of you. Because you're thinking, oh, they're like this. Oh, but wait, and you're going back and forth. So when you try to look and you think, you want to read, you want to say red, green, blue, but that's not, you got to be green, yellow, white. You have to read. And so that tells you right there. Our implicit biases are so deep. Our implicit biases are so instantaneous. They show up when you least expect. And people build on what's there.
That is a great exercise, Dr. Dawson. I thought I was going to have no problem like getting through even the second one, but I struggled with that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
And we do in life, period. We struggle with it because we're just like, we say we're not prejudiced, but we are. We say,
all of us are.
We all are. We prejudge people. We prejudge things, So we have to make sure that we make a conscious effort. So you can go to the next slide now.
Okay. Did it go to the next one?
Not yet.
It's not moving.
I'm sure.
Well, let me see. See if I can do it up here. There we go.
Okay. So our thinking about words is faster and easier than our automatic understanding of the meaning of the words and the color in which they are written are consistent. Than the automatic understandings of conflict. All of this. Our thinking is faster than saying the word. It's just faster. So what we think about somebody shows up faster than what we can speak.
Wow. But that makes perfect sense because the biggest, I feel like the biggest conversation that we as Black people have about working together, like we can't agree on anything. And probably because we have these preconceived notions, these biases just within our own community, within our own neighborhood, these implicit biases exist, which kind of probably inhibits us from getting along.
Yeah.
Just even talking without arguing about things.
Yeah. I was sharing with you that I'm a colleague of mine and I are writing a book called Black Trauma, What Happened to You. And we have a chapter in there called the Maladaptive Mindset. And this maladaptive mindset is the mindset that we've taken on It's not, it's all these things that we think about ourselves, you know, all the trauma that's been caused in our lives, the things that we think that we've taken on, that's not true, you know. And it's made, and it's caused us to be maladaptive in our thought processes and in the things that we do and say about us to others even. So so when it comes to like wanting to do something together, our maladaptive mindset can keep us from coming together to do that, because it's always going to be, it's like, you know, something, what are you going to do? What are you getting out of it? What are you going to do? As opposed to when you look at other ethnicities, they come together, they will build up and businesses and buy homes just for one person to be successful. And they will come back around and do it again for another person. They may be the last person on the list to get something, but it doesn't stop them from building up and helping. But because we've gone through such horrendous treatment, it causes us to think differently about how that's done.
And I want to dig into that even deeper here. Is there another slide that we're going to go to before we move on?
Yes.
Pardon me?
Yes.
All right. Next slide then. All right.
So you look at these perceptions, they're based by context. So you think about it, when we say construction worker, we normally talk about, you normally think about a man as a construction worker, not a woman. And when you say nurse, what do you think about typically?
A woman.
You think about females, not men. But that's our perception. And see, this maladaptive mindset even comes in with our perceptions of what we see and what we think. You know, their perception of you was more like them than any Black person. So our thinking about people tends to be faster and easier when our automatic understanding of their characteristics or the roles they play and our automatic understanding of the situation they are in are consistent than when they're conflict. So when it's alike, you're like us.
Right.
Okay. It shows up.
All right. You want me to go to the next slide?
This right here is powerful.
I love this.
Dr. Tricia Rose did this, and she talked when she was talking about this structural racism. You know, our country is built on structural racism. And these interlocking gears, all of these gears impact everything we do. From there's the media, there's education, there's housing, there's finances, and then there's legal law. Okay. All of them, one can't move without the other moving.
Yes.
And we are built on a nation that's built on this structural racism. And in this structural racism is systems.
Yes.
And these systems, they build at your work site. These systems are built on this structure, so that now that when I mentioned earlier with those earlier slides about the things that are things that happen in our my mind is going everywhere. When we talk about the structure, the systems that are there, the systems we have are built on the structure, on these structural racism. Yes. And those systems I mentioned in that very first slide on things being ubiquitous. If you can you punch back to that slide we had?
Which one is that?
The one go on, keep going. Right there. When we talk about how everything is ubiquitous, that's where all these systems lie. All these systems lie there.
Absolutely. And that's one of the, this, we're going to have like a longer conversation, Carlian, because, this, my goal is for this podcast to start a movement.
Mhm.
And it's the kind of the foundation to a documentary that I'm working on called Bootstraps. And in that documentary, we talk about inequality and poverty and how it's associated with all of those things that were just in that gear: economics, justice, education. Like, it's all connected. And I love the
That's the
gear
structure. The
analogy.
structure,
Yeah.
yes.
Yes, because, and even at work, that's how I think about things at work. We're all different departments, and it's like the gears. One
Mhm.
department is connected to the other, and the movement of one gear affects another gear. And if one gear
Absolutely.
stops, then the whole system shuts down. Right?
Absolutely.
So I love that analogy.
Yeah.
And I just have goosebumps that we're actually talking about this, because the trauma that Black people carry around with us. And earlier in the chat, Sweet Jamaica said it so clearly. PTSD is post-traumatic slavery disorder. We've kind of, taken that to mean to be more meaningful to us, right?
Uh-huh. Yes, 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 yes. The good doctor, I'm trying to think of her name, who coined that term, the post-traumatic slave disorder.
Yes.
Um, oh gosh, I can't think of her name right now. Beautiful woman that speaks so clearly on this. But yeah, all of this, this speaks to where we are right now and how we do. And I know, and really, I do have uh, slides that will speak to you how we got traumatized. And I really would like to share those with you at some point in time so that you can see.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, can we talk about that? Can we kind of talk about it without the slides?
Um, yeah, we can. We can.
Okay.
Because
Is there anything else in this slide deck that you
you
want to
can go
share
back
with
there.
the audience?
I think if you go back down, go all the way back down. I think, yeah, I think I have.
All right. Past this one?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. So the system that we have is doing what it's designed to do. It is doing exactly what it's designed to do.
Absolutely.
Our training will not result in our the training you get when people say they want to be understand what being trauma informed is all about. It's more than a one shot. You just can't take one training and think that you got it. You can't. It's a series of work that you do, and it's important that people all understand that and how that looks. Um, I don't. Let's see.
We talk about inequality on this show as it relates to Black people, because that is the voice that I have as a Black woman in this country. And we always like to just acknowledge that inequality happens in a lot of ways to a lot of people, but the difference is that it's legislated in this country against Black people. It's systematic. It's in our soil. It's the root of this country. And even the Constitution, where we're only 3/5 of a person, that's never been ratified. We're still 3/5 of a person as far as our Constitution goes. And not just that, I feel like the way that they kind of make sure that we're not counted wholly is not paying us the same, making sure that our unemployment rates are higher, making sure that we have ghettos, Black ghettos. When you think about Black neighborhoods, there aren't very many positive connotations when it comes to living in a Black neighborhood. When we think about even voting and redistricting, it takes our power and splits it up, so that even when you have our group of Black people, they're taking pieces of it out and putting into white districts, so that our voice isn't even heard when it comes to voting.
Right. You're absolutely right. It's amazing how all of this comes together. I am sending you something right now.
Okay.
I'm going to send this to you because I want you to see this, and maybe you can show this to them. Okay,
Okay,
everybody.
I'm going to stop sharing this then, and we're going to get to my email. Hopefully you guys won't be able to look at my email.
Yeah, I just want you to see. I want to show you this and talk through this.
All right.
Oh, it just went out. I thought it was. It took a little while before it was sent out, before it left me.
No worries. There we go. So even just as I'm getting all this taken care of, I just want to stop again and welcome everyone to the show. You are here with the Inequality Podcast. My name is Twana, and our special guest today is Dr. Carlian Dawson, and we're talking about Black trauma and all of the ways that we carry wounds to our soul and how that affects our response to different things that happens in our life. So if you're in the chat, Sweet Jamaica and Rush in the Flesh are taking really good care of you. I want to just really quick say hi to Chicken Wing Dooney. So nice of you to come in. So nice of you to come in. And thank you very much for that. I also want to say hi to Drea. Welcome. First time chat. Thank you so much, Drea, for coming in and reaching out. Crazy Berrytown. Now, one of the things, Dr. Dawson, that's special about Twitch is we're an awesome community of people who probably have never met in person, but our love for each other is not diminished in any way. And Crazy Berrytown is just one of those wonderful women that I found through other podcasts and other streamers. She does this show on Fridays called Good Grief with my pastor, spiritual thought leader. That is an amazing show. We don't realize how deep our grief goes sometimes, and we hang on to that grief a lot when it's not serving us. But Crazy Berrytown has a show on Fridays again with Kim Possible that really dives deeply into how that grief shows up. And I just love that show. She's also she does Zumba. She'll Zumba you to Zion. So if you're not following Crazy Berrytown, you just need to click on her name and follow her. Welcome in BMC Duffy. So now that's my auntie, Carlian, Auntie Barbara. I think you probably remember her, but she's BMC Duffy, McDuffie, Ari's B McDuffie. Good Lord. I'm not even on pain pills anymore. My brain is still a little bit loopy. Welcome in, Essie Patton. Welcome in, Din Darn. It's always so nice to have you here. You just give such great support to this podcast, and I appreciate you so very much. Again, if you have any questions or comments, all right. You can't hear me, Sweet Jamaica. Can you hear me now? I just want to make sure everyone can hear me. I did have my mic on mute just to make sure we don't have any feedback. All right, so I have here. All right, so let me get this up here. Well, first let me open it with Google Slides, and then I'll be able to share it here in just a moment. Oh, nope. What happened here? Oh, there it is. Let me get to the second one. Nope, don't want to take a tour. All right, now how do I get to a full page? We're just not going to be totally professional with this one, Dr. Dawson. Let me just share the screen here.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
Okay. All right. I don't know how much of that you all can see.
Let me see if I can make it bigger.
Yeah, that would be great.
Woo, that's too big. Oh, my reminder to take my medication just came on.
Okay.
All right. Can everyone see that in the chat? Can you let me know how well you can see that slide? I want to make sure that everyone can see what we're talking about here.
Well, as long as you can see, I'll just talk about it in this.
Okay.
This is actually just a model, conceptual model on how racial discrimination impacts our bodies. Okay. As children, as adults, it impacts our bodies pretty much the same way. So when you look at the first column over here, it says exposure to, I'm going to read everything for you. So exposure to racial discrimination. This exposure to racial discrimination is actually called a weathering effect. A weathering effect, that's in the red. A weathering effect, when you think about this, there was a doctor out of the Boston Children's Hospital that I met up with at a conference I went to here in Phoenix. And I was talking about how African Americans are impacted year after year with stuff that just, little things that happen. And he said, and he told me, he said, this is called a weathering effect. I had not ever heard of it. This has been about 10 years ago. I had never heard of that term, weathering. I said, what is weathering? He said, it's the wearing on of the outside to the inside of the body. Wow. So he said, take a piece of leather and lay it out in the elements for a good while, just say a year. You put it out there, and then after you go back out there and you pick it up. He said, do you think that piece of leather will look anything like it did when you first put it out there? I said, well, obviously not. No, it's probably going to be hard and brittle. And he said, weathering for us impacts us from the outside to the inside. And we don't realize what this exposure at microsystems level. These are children when they hear things, when they get teased, when they get bullied, when they observe things that are happening to their families, when people, things that are done in our communities, when all these things are happening to us, is from the outside to the inside. And it's not just a microsystem, it's also a macro system. This structural racism that happens to us, when you look at the media, we've got more Black shows on now than we've ever had on. When I was growing up, there was nothing that was Black. The first show I saw that was a Black show was called Julia. I remember that show. Yeah, and that was like 70s, I think, or 80s somewhere. But it was like, it was just one show. Yep. When you had people like Mahalia Jackson had a 15-minute show that she would do every morning or twice a week, or whatever. She would come on, she would sing a couple of songs. That's it. And the show was off. It was 15 minutes. We couldn't wait to see her. Going to school, I would just sit there and watch. The school bus would be coming. I would still be watching because we didn't see people who looked like us. So this exposure at a micro level, in our books, when you don't see people that look like you, it impacts you. And then I remember in the 3rd grade, my teacher showed us a video, and it had some Africans, and she was talking about people of African descent, how they have broad noses and large, thick lips. Everybody in the classroom looked around and looked at me. I was the only Black girl in there. And they all looked at me. Yes. I didn't know what to do. I put the book in front of my face because I didn't know what to do. But yes. I'm like, but in the way she said it, it was negative. And because the people that were represented, they were in their native clothing. And and they were like, their butts were showing, and they were dancing around, and it didn't look right to me, and was embarrassing because I didn't understand. And yet she never talked about that. She just said, people that have this come from here. So that weathering can wear on us year after year. It can wear on us. And we don't even know it. It's just happening. Yeah. And then you look at the psychological and biological responses. That's the inside out responses. That's called an allostatic load. Allostasis is an overload of stress inside your body. When you have an overload of stress inside your body, it causes some things to happen to you psychologically and physically. Okay, you can get what you hope to dream to become will not come to efficacy. It will not be efficacious. It will you can be depressed. You have a sense of hopelessness, no hope. You have anxiety. You can have anger and aggression, all because of the overload of stress. And you think about this, an overload of stress comes to when people don't see you, when people expect more from you, you
Yep.
know, all of that can give you an overload of stress.
And
When they're
we raise our kids that way, that we have to be better. We have to do more in order to even become equal, which we really will never. Even doing more, even
Yeah,
expecting more doesn't give us that equality here in this country.
right, exactly. When today, a white man who is doesn't have a degree, who drops out of high school, can still earn more than a black man with a college degree. It's
Doesn't make
ridiculous.
sense. And can become president.
Yes, you know. So the changes in the allostasis, the allostatic load in our body, it decreases when you got all this stress in your body. It decreases your immune function. It increases your cortisol level. It increases your blood pressure. It increases your heart rate. And our heart rate and blood pressure cannot maintain at a high level like that all the time. It can't do it. And
Absolutely.
so what happens is this: our health outcomes are bad, are negative. We end up having our low birth weight babies. As a matter of fact, here in Phoenix, Arizona, in South Phoenix, we have the highest rate of infant mortality for children under 12 months old and for mothers uh, because of poor health care.
Right here in Phoenix.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
And we don't even have a lot of black people here.
No, 5%.
Right.
So, and you think about that, our babies die at a higher rate than anybody else's babies. If it's a non-black doctor, our health risk increases and does well when there's a black doctor.
Of course.
Yeah.
I search out black doctors and I can't find them. I look for it within my, within my HMO or whatever you call
Right,
it.
right.
Can't find one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's very, very challenging.
And
Um,
then in our brains, we think that when someone dies in their 50s, like David Arnold, like, what we've just recently experienced, these are men dying in their 50s and the
uh-huh.
media telling us it's by natural causes. Oh, they died restfully in their sleep from natural causes. Then you can't die from natural causes in your 50s. How is that even acceptable?
Yeah, yeah. So all of this, it causes us to have increased risk in chronic health diseases such as cardiovascular disease,
Yeah.
chronic kidney disease, um, high blood pressure. All of these things happen to us,
Yeah.
all because of weathering and allostasis. But when
Wow.
we know about it, as Maya Angelou said, I did the best I knew then, but when you know better, you do better.
Do better.
And so when you know about something, you start to do better about something.
Absolutely.
And that's what this
Absolutely.
is all about. It's like knowing better and helping yourself.
Yeah.
The
Yes.
best thing
Know
that we
thyself.
can do. What?
Have knowledge and know thyself. That's
Right,
what
right, right,
no one
right.
can take away your knowledge. And
Mm-mm,
so hopefully
mm-mm.
we are all growing and learning to thirst for it because
Right,
that
right,
can't be taken away from us.
right. Exactly, exactly. When you think about how do what's the best things that we can do for ourselves? The best thing we can do for ourselves is to eat right, sleep. I never understood the importance of sleep until I became a more mature woman.
Yeah,
And sleep is healing. And we
it
don't
is.
understand that. when we're young, we think we don't need to. I didn't think I needed to sleep. My boyfriend and I used to joke about how, we only need 3 or 4 hours of sleep.
That's a nap.
Yeah.
Your body is not doing anything during 3 to 4 hours.
Nothing at all. So it's important that we understand the critical nature behind sleeping and what we need to do, how we need to take care of our bodies.
Yes.
That is so critical.
I keep seeing people just say health is the new wealth. Like,
absolutely, absolutely. Whoever said that, yay!
Health is the new wealth. It's really important, and it's a challenge to get young people to see that, right? Because they feel like they have forever. And then by the time you get to the age where you understand how important it is, like, oh my goodness, I'm already in the, in the second half of my life. And I'm just now realizing how important it is to take care of myself.
Yes. And that's amazing. But if anybody, and people would tell me, they would say then, I remember my older friends would say, you need to sleep, baby. You need to sleep. Get some good sleep. I would just say, yes, ma'am. But in my mind, I was like, oh, no, I don't have time to sleep. I don't have time. And now all I do is tell people about the importance of sleep, how your body needs to have rest. The only way your body can heal itself is through good sleep. Yes. And you've got to be in bed by 10 to give your body enough to get your circadian rhythm set. So by midnight, you're in that place where your body is healing itself.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So you've got to do that. So we've got to take care of ourselves. And then I was listening to this man talk. If you ever get a chance, listen to Gary Brecka. Gary Brecka, Brecka.
Hold on. I'm going to put that here in the chat. You say Gary
Brecka.
Brecka.
Brecka, that's right.
All right.
Gary Brecka is phenomenal. And what he talks about, he was one of 5 people in the nation who work for insurance companies and actuarians and all this stuff, where he could predict to the month when people would die.
What?
Okay. Yeah. I didn't know people like that existed. Wow. And so he would do that. And he did it for 20 years and he was miserable. He said, because I could see, he said, I could see what was going on. And I could say, this doctor is giving them this. They really should be giving them this because they're going to die here to the month, he said. Only 5 people in the nation. And he said, and I couldn't, he said, it was just too much. And so he met his fiance now, and he was just complaining to her, and they, talk. He says, I want to leave this. I can't do this anymore. He said, because if I he said, I can't interrupt and tell them. It's a felony if I go tell them with his job. If I go tell people, it's a felony. Wow. That's what he said. So listen to him. But so anyway, but he says that, so he left that work. And he does now the opposite. And the opposite is now he just shows people how to really do better, how to extend and how to not extend their life, but things that they can do to give them a more quality life. Right. And if you're doing these things, he said it really can extend your life, because he said the presence of oxygen is the absence of disease. So he said people don't realize the importance of deep breathing. And he talks about deep breathing and what it does for your body. So, so with all of that, he is just somebody you really want to listen to. All right. And to hear him out, because he's worth, every time I listen to him, I'm going, oh my gosh, amazing. He even talks about, he said, there are 4 things you should say to yourself every morning. And he said, the things are that he said, women especially, because women get right in the mirror and they can see every pore in their face. They can see pimples developing that aren't, even there yet. But he said, he's because they get right in front of the mirror. They get too close to the mirror. He says, stand 6 feet away from the mirror and tell yourself this every day, that you're beautiful. Just say, I'm beautiful.
I'm beautiful.
I'm created in God's image. I have a purpose and I am wealthy. He said, tell yourself those 4 things every day and it'll make a difference.
Those very true things that we should be telling ourselves every day. And deep breathing, I'm understanding, is very important too. It was so funny because, I've just had surgery and they had me connected to the O2 meter and they would have to tell me to take a deep breath because it was affecting my O2 levels. Even while they were sitting there, they'd have to, you need to take a deep breath. And so I'd have to take a deep breath because I would stop. I had, but there was just such a deep space in between my breaths when I was recovering that they had to keep reminding me to take a deep breath.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and it looks like Din Darn says that Gary Brecka has a podcast on Spotify.
He does.
And she's going to be listening to him. Thank you for that information, Din Darn. I appreciate that. Chicken Wing Dooney, I just love this young man. He's been on my show before talking about mental, being more attentive to our mental health, especially with Black men. I don't want to keep score or anything, but Black men's mental health, I feel like, is affected at such a young age in this society. And Chicken Wing Dooney is one of those. He's a gamer on Twitch, but during his gaming stream, he'll talk about mental health a lot. So thank you, Chicken Wing Dooney. I'm going to get back and look at some of your responses here. I need to take a break. I'm not a break. Believe it or not, I have some food that just came to my door. Give me 1 second. I'm going to go grab this. Good thing I put pants on today. I just have to say thank you to all my angels who are taking such good care of me while I recover. People are just sending me food so I don't have to cook. I get overwhelmed. I'm just so blessed.
Yeah.
Anyways, thank you all again. I just want to take a minute to thank you for joining the Inequality Podcast. I'm your host, Twana, and today we're talking about Black trauma with Carlian Dawson, who is a doctor and has committed her life. Her purpose is learning more about trauma, sharing and teaching what she's learned, and helping us to not only understand, but even overcome that trauma. So if we can just talk about how slavery has affected us individually, I like to say that it's really nice to be African American, right? To have those roots to Africa. We think back to kings and queens that we were all of those centuries ago, all of those generations ago. I like to think about how our DNA has been affected since we've been here in this country. Because, we have generations and generations. My parents were born here, their parents, their parents, their parents. I'm rooted in America. And so I want to learn how to take that power back from being where I'm from, right here in America. Can you talk to that a little bit, Dr. Dawson?
Oh my goodness. Yes, 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 yes. I'll tell you, the neurobiology of ACEs and trauma on the brain is just phenomenal. When you think about adverse childhood experiences, these are events, things that happen, traumatic events that happen, and they have a negative and lasting effects on our health and our well-being. These adverse childhood experiences happen in 3 categories: household challenges, abuse, and then neglect. And they can actually take up to 20 years off of your life Okay. And the funny thing is that of our population, about 67% of our people have at least one ACE. And then the research says that if you have one ACE, you typically have more ACEs. And what these ACEs do is if you have, there's a test you can take, and there's a test for on ACEs, and it's 10 questions. And they say if you have 4 more ACEs, then you are 3 times the chance of developing lung disease. Or if you have 4 more ACEs, you have 14 times the opportunity of suicide attempts. And it just goes on and on. If you have 4 more ACEs, you have 11 times the opportunity of developing, of getting hooked on intravenous drugs. And it just goes on and on and on. And when you think about it, when you have these adverse childhood experiences, it disrupts your neurological development. Okay. And this disruption causes social, it causes emotional, cognitive impairment. Okay.
Yes.
And you then, as a result of that, you adopt these health risk. You do things to mitigate, to help you get through it. You start to adopt things to get you through it. So you might, because you are have this, you'll start doing things like drinking. Let's say you start drinking wine to mitigate how you're feeling. And so you end up drinking more and more wine. You start to adapt all these negative health behaviors. And then because you're adapting these negative health behaviors, you then you open yourself to get to more disease and or social problems. And then you also can have an early death. And what people don't realize is that when you think about ACEs, they start at the adverse childhood experience. You think of it as a pyramid. You got the adverse childhood experiences here with the disrupted neurodevelopment, the social, cognitive impairment, the adoption of health risk, and then the disease, getting the risk of getting the disease, and then early death. It starts there. But for African Americans, Black and brown people, this does not start at adverse childhood experiences. It starts at a lower level. It starts at there's when you were talking about generational stuff. This is where this starts. I'm going to send you another slide, Tawana.
Okay.
That I want you to see if you can share, because then you can see, people can see what I'm talking about here, because this is just so powerful.
Absolutely. I'm looking now, and so as soon as I get it, then I'll put it up there and people can have a visual of what you're talking about.
Yes. I think that.
And for those of you all who are tuning in, whether you're on YouTube or Twitter or Twitch, all of the resources that Dr. Dawson is sharing with us today, I will share with you as well. You'll just have to go to my YouTube channel, which is where I usually have the links and all the information that's spelled out in the description. So you'll be able to access all of these things that Dr. Dawson is sharing with us, as long as she gives me permission to do that.
Yeah. Okay, so you should have it.
Put that one down. All right.
So when you think about this is where the typical American starts with adverse childhood experiences. This is where they start. And this was developed on this whole thing about adverse childhood experience was developed by white people for white people. They used 17,000 people, and they had a couple of black and brown in there, but it was 17,500 plus people in this study that they did. And they came up with understanding. And what happened is this: there was this company, this organization. They were a weight loss organization, Dr. Folletti and Dr. Anda, and they were working on weight loss. And there's people in there who had lost weight, and this one woman lost a lot of weight, and they were so proud of her, and she was doing great. And then one day she told them that she was walking down the street, and these construction workers start making comments about her body, and it traumatized her, but she didn't know she was being traumatized. It traumatized her until she went back home and she started eating, and next thing you know, she had ate herself over what she had weighed before. And when they saw her just a few months later, they were like, "What happened?" And she said that the weight is her protection. People don't say, yes. The weight protected her against people hurting her body or coming at her. And so yes. That was what helped protect her. Did you get the slide? You got it?
Yeah. Yes, it is up. And to that point, I've learned that when you have a child who's a bedwetter past the time that they should be wetting the bed, that is also a defense mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
Because that will keep whoever has been tipping into your bedroom at night, right? Once you become that bedwetter, because we know that we have so much incest in our families, passed down generational and by generation and generation. So when in order to keep that person from coming into your bedroom at night, kids wet themselves to make themselves less desirable for someone to come in and bother them in their sleep.
And that could be the case. It's not always the case.
Right. I understand that too.
When they defecate on themselves, that's more about that's all about. When they start to defecate on themselves. But in urethra is a little bit different. Okay. But when you look at this, this pyramid here, you see where on the green side, where adverse childhood experiences start, with the pink side average, they're about equal. But look at that, 2 levels below, there are social conditions, okay? And then there are generational embodiment, historical trauma. Yes. That's where we start.
Yes.
We've got historical trauma that has happened to us and has been passed down generation by generation. And we have all that stuff. And so when people say, do you have to bring that up again? Do you have to talk? No one's ever addressed our trauma to make us whole.
Right.
And so here you have this historical trauma. Then you got the social conditions right now. Look at what's going on right now.
Yes.
When you have African-American individuals who are running away from a situation and still get shot in the back and killed. When you've got people who come into your house, mistakenly, they come to your house and they shoot and kill you. And they still want to blame you.
And and have no accountability. It's like our lives don't matter.
Yeah. And that's why this Black Lives Matter came about. Mm-hmm. Okay. So so you think about that. And then we pick up with all the other things when it comes to adverse childhood experiences. The rest of them, they're the same. But ours is, we have 2 levels more of trauma that we go through than anyone else.
Do those extra levels of trauma that we inherit, do you think it makes all of the other things in that pyramid that much magnified? So you have disrupted neurodevelopment on one side, but on our side, is that disrupted neurodevelopment even more a little bit deeper than if you didn't have those?
Right. Think about it. Just think about this. When you when I was a principal, I would have kids get into fights, and the fight started just because somebody looked at them. Okay. And so this was it a social condition? Was it, there were things when kids don't have words to speak, they use their hands.
Yes.
They want to fight. So all of that really talks about how our parents talk to us, and and how we talk to our children in terms of this generational embodiment, and historical trauma. How do we help our children? How do we help our children understand what's going on? How do we help them understand that these things that are going on around us and about us wasn't caused by us?
Yes.
And so with this, and so these adverse conditions, that's again where Caucasian people, they start there thinking that this is the big deal, but it's more than that. It's deeper than that. We've got people our lives are at stake. These social conditions, our lives are at stake. You don't have Caucasian people whose lives are at stake because of issues going on, and they are here, I just realized my battery is going down. I just saw a flashing light.
Oh, all right. Well, while you're doing that,
I got it.
Can you speak just a little bit, because you are a teacher, you are an educator, this is your passion, this is your life's work. How do we talk to our children? Is there a way that we can speak to this, the social conditions, the trauma, the historical trauma, in a way that they understand it, and it connects to them, and hopefully distances their souls from that wound? How do we approach how do we teach our kids that?
Oh my gosh. I don't even know. I'll tell you this. When I started talking with my older children, it was a different time, and I could share with them. They understood what was going on, and they accepted what was being said. They're about your age, so they accepted what I was saying. When I had 15 years later, when I had 3 younger children, they actually called me. They thought I was not racist. They thought that I was. Oh shoot, I can't think of the word. They said that you say that you want us. It's okay to you talk about white people to be, but yet you don't want us dating white people. And I was saying, well, that's true. I didn't, because because I knew that where we were living and where we were, how things were going on, that was not going to be a good. I'd seen too many of it. I had too many family members, and
Right.
got involved, and there were just all kinds of things. And I know you can't stop your heart from loving somebody, but there's going to be a cost to pay for that. And I accept that. And all of my white sister-in-laws and brother-in-laws and nephews and nieces, I loved tremendously. Did we try to talk them out of the relationship? Yeah. So, and one of them is still thriving, still moving, still going forward. They've had some horrible issues, but yet they're still moving forward. And I'm glad about that. But it is when you think about what you have to say to your children. When these 3 told me that, I speak one way and I'm saying something totally different, they didn't like it. And then as they matured, they came back and said, oops, sorry, you were right. We thought that you were wrong. We thought that you were saying that we thought that you didn't understand, that you were old, that you didn't understand. But now we realize that, yeah, you knew exactly what you were talking about, and you were trying to protect us. Because I don't know one white family that has to talk to their children about going out into the public,
Right.
how
Right.
you how you have to behave, or when you're driving a car, if you get stopped by the police, how you got to behave.
The experiences are definitely different. I remember my son was 15, and I was at work, and I got the call saying your son was shoplifting, and the police had him at the mall. They didn't take him to jail, but they called me and said, you can come and get your son. We're going to save him the hassle of taking him to jail if you can get here within, however much time it was. And I was at work, and this was in Minneapolis. I was a firefighter, so it was not easy for me to just leave work to go get him. And I remember drive all the way there. I was driving and driving and driving, and I was just so mad at my son. I was just mad, like, he's shoplifting. Like, that is not what I taught him. Like, where did he get this from? And then when I got to him, his shirt was ripped. He was, bloody, he had blood, and you can tell that the police were not very nice to him during this whole incident because he ran. He ran after the police told him to stop. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think about it now and afterwards, and I'm just grateful that he's alive, because that could have ended so much differently. And I never had that conversation with my kids.
Mm-hmm.
Because I grew up here. My parents didn't have that conversation with me here. They took me from Chicago so we wouldn't have to worry about that, right? That's what they said. And so I never had that conversation with my son, and I am always so grateful that he's still here, because things could have ended so much differently.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it does all the time.
Do
So,
we
so
do we give our kids more trauma when we tell them these things, or or is it better to shield them from those and then teach them moving from the adverse child experiences up? Which one is better?
I always believe that more information is better than no information. So we want you to share that with them, to talk with them about that in a way that's not scary, but yet they need to understand. When you're out in public, you need to understand that you're going to have more interactions with the police, with the law enforcement, than white kids are. You're going to have that. You can be doing what's right, and you can be stopped and then questioned, and then based on how you react, it can cause the police to hurt you, or kill you. So I had those talks with my son. I had him carry around our attorney's card with him when he started driving. I didn't have that card with him. I had, so that if you get stopped, something's going on, this, you call me, but if you couldn't come, you can call him. And we did that.
Right.
So
That's
that,
awesome.
yeah, but you have to get your children prepared for that. Being prepared for something is better than not being prepared for it. And so
Yeah.
when they see that, and they see your protection for them, it makes a big difference.
Yeah. And I feel like that's why he ran, because I never taught him not to. There wasn't a
Yeah,
conversation that we ever had. Don't run. But of course, in my mind, when would my kids ever be in that situation? Because
exactly, exactly.
it just never even dawned on me that even if he had not shoplifted, he still could have been in that situation at any time in his life, just because he's a Black man.
Hmm.
And these are lessons that I am committed to teaching my grandkids now. It's like, we are going to have these conversations. But
Yeah,
I also want to be able to not just, you know, share that part of our experience with them, but I want to be able to make sure that they thrive, that they tap into that slavery DNA that we have here, which is, to me, and I've said this before, is strong. Those of us who are left here are powerful. We're strong. We come from people who overcame so much, and understanding that part of our identity is just as important to me as understanding the African king and queen part of our identity.
absolutely, Twana. I appreciate what you're saying so much. Um, and it's important that we understand, how all of this impacts us. I think that when we are talking with our kids and sharing with them and talking about these things, we make them stronger. We build them up better than what they would have been without it. I want you to go back to the original slides. There's still a
The
couple of
original
things.
ones?
Yes. There's still a couple of things I want to share with you.
Okay. Where did I do with
What?
it?
Yes.
All right. Let me. All right. I'm trying. There we go. Done with that. I thought I still had it on here, but I may have closed it. So let me go back and open it up.
Okay.
And as I do get back to that, I want to again say thank you to everyone who's come in today and joined us on our show, on this podcast. I'm always so grateful that people take the time out of their weekend schedule to spend their time with me. Anything. Oops, sorry. Din darn, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you again. I have to say that again. I was on mute there. People couldn't hear, but thanks again. I'm always so grateful when people come and share their Saturdays with me. And so I appreciate you. I appreciate you so much. Okay, so I have this one up now again. Let me share the screen. All right, here we go.
Okay, because we were talking about these systems.
Yes. Play from the current slide.
Pardon me?
I'm going to just start this from the current slide here.
The systems, yeah, because it's like I say, it's doing what it's designed to do.
Yes.
The thing that this system, it takes time and it requires people to understand that change can happen, but it's not going to happen real easily. And when people think that you can come in and do a DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion workshop and do it one time and get out of it, it's not going to work. You got to make sure you got people in the right place doing the right thing, saying the right thing. And I've learned that you got to make sure that you hit people where their money is. People, yes. People do something, they change when it's money.
You're
and
right.
So you got to make sure that is being hit appropriately.
Yes.
That's what's important. There are, when I think about that last slide, go to the very last slide.
Very last slide.
It's number 14. It's 2 slides down. Yeah.
There we go.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that one.
Yes.
Right there. That one right there.
Okay.
When you care, when you are conscious and purposeful in engagement that promotes your physical, your mental, emotional, social, and spiritual health in everybody. So I say this because thriving is good. Thriving is good. That means you are doing well. You're being successful. But we want to get our people to where they go beyond thriving and they actually become oh shoot.
That's okay. Beyond just survive. I like to say beyond surviving, we want people to thrive. And I feel like we are so in tune to, as long as I'm good, as long as my family's good, we don't really think about everybody else.
Yeah, I'm having a brain freeze right now. I am there is another level that I always talk about that people should look at beyond thriving. Lord Jesus, help me.
I've learned to just be quiet and let the answer, because if I keep talking, your mind is not going to be able to get to it.
This is And it was just there. Okay, it's not coming right now.
That's
And
okay.
this, and this, and this.
It'll come before we get out of here today, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah, it will, it will. But let me share with you. You know, when it comes to our thriving, our state dependence of cognition is really important. How we think about ourselves uh, when we're doing stuff. We have a functional IQ level, okay, and this functional IQ level, when we are calm, um, um, Tawana, that functional IQ level can be anywhere between 100 and 120. Okay. And as we're in total access of our neocortex, we can get there. Uh, our cognition level is we can do abstract thinking, we can reason, we can plan, all because of a mental state that we're in this, and we're calm about it. Okay. When trauma enters, when things enters that cause us to disrupt that, and we get to the next level called alert, there's calm, alert, alarm, fear. Our functional IQ level reduces from to like 110 to 80, 80 to 110. Now, that's still good. You can still do some thinking, but it's not as good as it was when you were calm. And this alert state is where I think most of us as Black people live in. I think we walk around in this state at a minimum. We can get to our cortex, we can express our emotions, but our cognition is more concrete. Our abstract thinking and planning isn't as good as it could be, but we can do some of it, okay? Because we're in an alert state. That's that feeling of like I walk into a room and nobody looks like me, and I'm like, oh, that feeling puts you in that alert state. And then the next level is alarm. In the alarm state, your functional IQ level goes from like 60 to 90. Again, you see there's an overlap with the last one, because you can do some thinking, but it's not real good. It's gotten less because you're more emotional. As things increase, as the mental state increases, gets worse, you might say, your thinking ability reduces and you become more emotional. So in this alarm state, you're more emotional and reactive. So if something happens, you respond immediately. So when a kid, if somebody steps on your foot, you hit. Instead of talking it out, you hit. If somebody says something to you, you say something back to them. You're emotional about it, okay?
Yeah.
And then the last level is fear. And that is your functional IQ level goes from 50 to about 70.
Wow.
Now, you can emotionally, you can think, but now your thinking is more in the brainstem area, because in that brainstem area, that's where our self-protection resides. So when we are trying to protect ourselves against whatever's going on out there, we're not trying to think and be calm. We're trying to, there's fear there, and we're trying to figure out what it is we got to do. Okay.
That's that fight or flight.
Ah, yes, that's exactly what that is. That, as a matter of fact, it can be the alert of the alarm stage can be the freeze or flock, and then the last one is fight or flight. So that freeze is like you totally don't know. You just stop. You don't know what to do. You just stand there. Flocking is you're looking around to see who's doing what. You're looking to see, and you do the same thing. If they run, you run. That, and then the fight or flight. Is I'm gonna fight my way out. I'm gonna run my way out. Okay.
Yeah.
So all of those things happen, and we go through these state dependence of cognition throughout the day, up and down, depends on what's going on. Yeah. And so, Black people, when I say we're at the alert state, at that alert state, your heart is beating faster and you're doing more because you're alert. Things are going on around you. Your body is not doing what it's supposed to do because it's not calm. At a
Yeah.
calm state, you do better. So there's always
Absolutely.
this, something that's going on that's causing you to act outside yourself. And so
And
this,
we are always in that state. Like that's just kind of where we reside.
yes, I believe so. That's not research though. That's just that's a Carlianism. And
Yeah.
I believe that we are at this alert, we are at the alert state all the time at a minimum.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
so we're always looking to see. And I've had some individuals say, well, I think we might be at an alarm state. There are times when the George Floyd thing was going on, most of us was
Absolutely.
at the alarm state all the time. I know I lived in the alarm state for a while.
Yeah. Me
I was
too.
always I was crying all the time because I was like, it was so hurtful. I was always crying. I was very emotional.
Me too. I thought and not just because of but because my kids were still there. Like
Yeah.
I had that added, piece into it too because my kids are still in Minneapolis. So it hit me I think deeper than a lot of people. Not just that's my second home, and my city disappoints me over and over and over again. And then my kids were still there. There was so much. So I agree. I might have been in in that state as well.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. So when you think about that, we go through these things all day long, up and down, up and down, up and down. And if you
Absolutely.
can't get to a place of calm where your body can rest and handle things, and you can think through things,
Yeah.
you're just wearing your body out.
Yeah. And we want change. We want to see change. And the only thing that's going to change where we rest, where we live our lives is if there is change, right? I don't know when that's going to happen, and I hope that it happens at least within my grandkids' lifetime, where we've been patient enough, where we've marched enough, where we've protested enough, where we've done enough to disrupt the system so that my grandkids, at least that generation, won't have to live in that alert or alarm state.
That's right. You don't want, and but we'll always have access to it. We just don't want to live there. And I like the way you said that. We don't want to
Right.
live there.
Yeah.
And right now, a lot of us are living there, and
Yes.
it is tearing our bodies down.
It
Remember that
is.
overload of stress we talked about earlier? That brings an overload of stress.
Yes.
Living in the alert and alarm state.
Absolutely. Well, I we are we have actually been talking a really really long time, and we're not even at the end yet. I want to talk more about the organization that you founded here in Arizona, and give those of us who are listening, whether you're on YouTube or Twitter or Twitch, they're all over the country. So if we can provide a resource that's maybe a national resource that does what you do here specifically in Arizona, that we can pass along to them, that would be great. If you don't mind, I would just like to take 1 minute to just talk about what's coming up next week and in the future, and then we'll get back to you to wrap it up. Is that okay, Dr.
Sounds
Dawson?
fine. Sounds fine.
All right. So next week I will not be doing a podcast. I'm celebrating my birthday. Originally, I had this really big, celebration planned. But I canceled that because I just had surgery and I'm just not able to do kind of the things that I've been able to do before. So, as you can see, next week, no podcast. I'm still going to celebrate my birthday. I won't be tandem diving and doing all the stuff that I thought I'd be doing, but I'm still going to celebrate my birthday. My son's coming and he's going to spend the week with me. So I'm really excited about that. So no podcast next week, you guys. But we'll be back October 1st with a very, very good friend of mine, Robin Robinson. She was a news anchor for Fox News in Minneapolis, but she's now working with the city of Minneapolis to bring arts back into our community. She also has her own jewelry line hopefully she'll get a chance to talk about that as well. But next week's show is going to be awesome because I'd like to just show that inequality happens everywhere to everyone. When you're Black, it doesn't matter where you are, who you are, we're all experiencing the same thing. And so I appreciate Robin taking the time out to come and talk with us next week. And so, let me see if I can do I have it up here? Yes, I do. So here's Robin Robinson, Bright Lights, Big City. Again, racism and equality is experienced by everyone, no matter what we do or where we are in life. But we're going to take a deeper dive with her. She's got so many insights into how we can overcome that racism, overcome inequality, and still conquer everything that comes our way. So Robin Robinson, October 1st. I will not be here next week. No show next week. So let me just say this. After Robin Robinson, one of the other shows that I want to highlight, and this is a little ways away, but October 29th, Justice and Righteousness with Jana Scott. And Dr. Carlian, you probably know who Jana Scott is.
I do. She's awesome.
She is amazing. And we're going to talk about how the role that our churches have in the justice movement that we're seeing today, how churches need to get out of their four walls and get out into the community and do more work. I am so excited to have her on. But in between that, I've got some great conversations with friends where we look at things differently as far as racism and inequality, and just have simple conversations with people that are really, really important to me. So that's kind of what's coming up. Again, we'll not be here next week. And thank you for everyone who's wishing me happy birthday in the chat. I really appreciate that. I am going to be 52 years old. 52, Carlian. Can you believe it?
No. No, I can't.
Sometimes it's hard to say, but at the same time, I always say, well, the options, like I'd rather be getting older than not.
Right.
Okay. So can we talk just a minute about ASCAR, the Arizona Center for African American Resources, that you've started here in Arizona, and then we'll move on to kind of wrapping it up and my final parting questions for you.
Yeah. ASCAR, the Arizona Center for African American Resources, started, about 2009, I think. There was a group of us that decided that there was no agencies here that really focus on African American care. No one. And so, and we were always talking about it and complaining. And we thought, well, why don't we just do something ourselves? And so there were several of us that started it, and we have grown, and we have received funding, and we've just really done an amazing job in the funding that we receive. And now we're working on getting these funds out to the community. We don't try to do the work ourselves. We find the organizations that are doing the work, and we provide them with the fundings that we've been given to do the work. That's been our MO, because we don't have to do all this work. It's just too much.
Absolutely.
But someone has to raise the voice. And raising the voice is really half the work. Yes. We've got agencies that do great work, but they're so small. Organizations don't want to give them funding because they're not sustainable. They want to see something that's going to be ongoing. And our organization has proven that. And so we get funding now, and we just distribute it out to people in order to help them be successful in what they're doing and working for our kids. For example, with African American kids are removed there's such a disproportionality in African American kids being removed from their home than Caucasian kids. Yep. So we work on that. We want to make sure that people understand, how that impacts us as a family. When you just take our kids like that and then have no pathway for them to be reunification, and no matter what they do, you still have severance on your mind, That's not a good thing. That's not a good thing.
Right.
So we work with that. We're working with Mike Foss, who's the head of the DCS agency department on that. We got a lot of good things coming down the pike that should be coming out pretty soon. Yeah. So
That's exciting. And I want to just let everyone know in the chat that the link for that website is in the chat. I've had it come up at least 5 or 6 times during the show. So please click on that link and visit the website and learn even more about this great organization.
yeah, for uh, it is, and so we have about, I think there are 8 of us now on the board.
Awesome.
And so, so just pray for us to continue to be able to receive this funding, to be able to give out to our community.
That's great. And I agree, Carlian, that, I feel like we all have a purpose, whether we understand what that is right now at this point in our lives. But we do have so many great organizations out there already doing the work. And that's been a part of what I like to do with this show, is to shine a light on those organizations that are already doing the work.
And let people know we don't have to do all this work by ourselves.
Exactly.
We don't have to do it by ourselves. There's no need to.
Yes.
So that's why I like what we're doing. I like the way we work, in that, my husband and I, we have a good life. So money doesn't move me the way it used to.
Right.
But it moves me when I can do something to help another fellow brother or sister, to help them have a quality of life. Okay?
Absolutely.
That's where I want to help. I want them to be able to be successful, with their lives, and move them to move beyond thriving.
Yes. Yes. We have the same, we're on that same path. I've mentioned that I'm working on a documentary called Bootstraps. But what I would like to eventually do, to have, this podcast and that documentary be the basis and the foundation of a bigger movement, Ghettos to Black Wall Street. I want our Black neighborhoods to be successful, and I want us to have ownership in our neighborhoods again. And those times during the 1900s with Tulsa, with Rosewood, and all of the other atrocities that were done during that red hot summer, I feel like that was the beginning of them constricting our neighborhoods, taking the wealth away, taking our power away. It all started there to me. And so we need to get back to where we have Black Wall Streets again. I was talking to a friend that lives in DC, and she told me that, there's a county there that's the richest, has the most successful, high earning Black people of any other county in the country. And so, great, you're earning that money, but do you own that county? Like, are you owning the thing? Oh, she's like, oh no, we have to go to another county just to get to a Whole Foods. Well, where is the power in that? Where's the power in that?
Right. Right. And see, and that's what's important. It's like, you've got to make sure you understand, where your power is. And it's not in, just you speaking, you talking. You've got to make sure you own something and do something. That, I another part of my life is I help people get out of debt. And I tell you, getting out of debt is our best way to build wealth. We don't have any idea of how much being poor costs.
Yeah.
Being poor costs so much more than we really realize.
It does.
And so when you get out of debt, when you can get out of debt, it raises up the value and quality of your life. But it's getting out of debt. And so when I tell people I help them get out of debt, it is unfortunately, I have more Caucasian clients than I have African American clients. And it's all because of something we said earlier, and that is that trust. And we've been, so when we're talking about how we uh, how, when this maladaptive mindset, we get to a place where we don't believe that we can do it, but we really can. And
Yeah.
Caucasian people know that they can do it. So when
Yeah.
you tell them how it's going to be done, they accept it. But we don't always accept it because we think,
Yeah.
well, that is not possible.
We really have to work on ourselves. We need to really heal ourselves so that we can become more like fire ants and less like crabs. I'm going to get a t-shirt
Yes,
about that one day. I swear I am.
yes, 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 yes. That's
All
so
right.
true.
So, all right. So we are coming up to the end of the show, Dr. Dawson. I
Oh my
appreciate you.
goodness.
So I know we've been at this for 2 hours already. Can you believe it?
I know.
I figured it was going to be like that. So I have some parting questions that I like to end the show with, and I
Okay.
ask the same ones of all my guests. So
Okay.
my first one is, what would you be doing if not for what you're doing right now? If you weren't doing the work that you're doing, what else do you like doing?
Help people get out of debt.
Awesome.
That's what is, if I wasn't, I am a teacher at heart. And I love teaching so much. I would do it for free. So
Awesome.
so help, talking about trauma is just, that has helped me and my people so much, because they understand now what it looks like, how it feels, and what's going on. And that something that happened to me yesterday can impact me into perpetuity. Okay. Knowing that. And if I'm not careful, I will allow it to do that. And I've seen that happen over and over and over again. So that, but uh, when I look at it and think about, if I couldn't do that, I would just really help people get out of debt, because that changes lives. When I can tell people they can get out of debt, they can have their 30-year mortgage paid off in 5 years. Yeah,
Wow. Now, when
yeah.
you said getting out of debt, you didn't say like, maybe you could pay off your mortgage in 5 years. That's like a whole
Yeah,
nother conversation. I'm gonna have to
that's a
have you
whole
back
nother,
for that.
that's a whole nother conversation, because it is, and it is possible, and you can do it
Wow.
without making all of these big extra payments.
Ooh.
Yeah, you won't be asked to do all of that.
All right. I'm going to have you back. I'm going to stick a fork in that one because I
Okay.
feel like the next question that I have is going to tie into that a little bit. So if money was of no concern to you, if money was not an object, what would you do? What would you do?
I would go around the world talking about how to build wealth, how, how to, trauma and wealth building.
Trauma
Those two.
and wealth building.
Hmm.
And that I feel like that's connected
It is.
because
Oh,
it's
it
the
is
trauma
connected.
that, yeah, it's the
It
trauma
is
that we
connected.
hold, the wounds to our soul that keeps us from even realizing that
How
we can
it,
reach our dreams, right?
exactly, exactly. The two go together. I do that. I do it all the time. I talk about the two of them all the time.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
it goes together.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay, next question. What are you most grateful for right now?
I am most grateful, for my health. I look at 71 years old.
What? You look so good. I thought you were like around my auntie's because Auntie Denise isn't that old. She's just a few years older than me. I thought you were, oh, wow. You look good, girl.
Thank you, thank you. So, and I take pride in that. I think I know is I take care of myself, and it's important. I do things that are important for me, and working with people is important for me. Giving back to my community is important to me.
Yeah.
So, and all that, impacts my health and and the outlook I have on life.
Awesome. That's awesome. Okay, next question. If today were the last day of your life, how would you live it?
With my family, with my family, surrounded by my children and my grandchildren and my husband.
And can't forget him.
Can't forget him. Can't forget him.
Okay, now, moving away from just you personally, do you
Hmm.
think that America can actually realize its potential?
Oh my gosh. I mean, yeah, but it'll be later rather than sooner. You know, I just working on African American children being removed, this disproportionality of children in the welfare system. We started this work 12 years ago, my husband and I.
Yeah.
And we just now got to a place where we're actually doing something.
Wow.
It shouldn't take that long,
Yeah.
but it took that long because the people that were out there didn't believe that it was as bad as we're saying it is. I had someone ask me, is this your belief or is this the people's belief? And I said, well, let me give you some examples of what the people are saying. You know, because it's just not my belief. It is my belief, but it's just not my belief.
Right. Yeah.
People, our families have been mistreated for so long that there's no trust in any system. We don't trust anything with the government's name on it.
Yeah.
And so, and that's bad and it's good, you know.
Yeah. And well deserved.
Yes. You think about
Well,
the Tuskegee Airmen and all the what they went through in terms of the syphilis test
yeah.
when they didn't have to go through all of that pain they wanted to see the reactions of individuals with it, syphilis. And they let these guys maintain these diseases. And
In the
they
name of,
died.
yeah.
And then you know, when you think about how, you know, once you find out something and you can fix it, it changes your whole life.
Yeah. It does.
So, you know, we've had a lot of things happen to us that didn't have to happen to us.
Yeah.
So I understand when I'm talking to my brothers and sisters and we're talking about getting out of debt, they look at me side eye. I understand that. I understand it. I hate it, but I understand it. And I tell them that. And I say, you know, it's not your fault that you don't believe this. I said, but if you were to try it, you will see something different. And
Absolutely.
the ones who try it, they go back and they say, oh my gosh. You know, I had one couple who bought a brand new house in 2018. And in 2019, they wanted to do what I was sharing with them to do this with this product. And so 2019, this is 2022, okay? So that's 19, 20, 21, that's 3 years. I was talking with them earlier this year and they said, Auntie Doc, they call me Auntie now, Auntie Doc, they call me. Auntie Doc, this is amazing. We will be out of debt. Now they bought this house. It was over $400,000 in 2018. Then she bought a new car in 2020. When COVID started, she bought a new car. And then in 2022, they bought a second new car. Okay. And she said, I will be out of total debt in 3 years.
Awesome. That's awesome. Definitely having you back. My chat was like, yes, bring her back. So you will be coming back with us uh, next year.
Okay. Yeah,
Uh,
that'd be good.
okay. One last question for you, Dr. Dawson. And this is, the point where you get to give your parting message to the audience. What
Okay.
do you want to leave with them today? What do you want to leave them with today?
You know, one of the best things that we can do for our families and for ourselves is to keep ourselves regulated, so that when we hear stuff, when things are going on, if we stay calm about what's going on, we have a better chance of helping our children stay calm. We can teach them how to calm, and we build regulation on the relationships that we have. Kids will move faster for you based on the relationship they have with you.
Right.
So that relationship is critical. Having a good relationship with someone, that causes you to be able to reach that cortex where you can reason with stuff. If you have a good relationship with someone, like Twana and I, we have a good relationship. And if something were to happen, I can help her. You know, when she was talking, I said, take a deep breath or whatever. Because of our relationship, if something were to happen and when she were to get excited about something, I can help her calm down better because we have that relationship. If we didn't have a relationship, there's nothing I could say to her because it's like, you don't matter.
Yeah.
So the relationship you have with somebody is critical, be it your child or somebody else. You can help. And when you are dysregulated, if you become dysregulated, okay, about something, that means that you're just, you're acting outside yourself now. And you talk to somebody else who's dysregulated, the two of you will never be able to regulate. But if you're dysregulated, I mean, if you're regulated and this person comes in and they're dysregulated, you can talk to them in a regulated tone and bring them down and help them. So we've just got to make sure that when we're talking and working with people, we stay regulated.
Right.
And that's easier said than done.
It is.
It's easier said than done. But we've
Yeah.
got to work on our regulation so that we can help others stay regulated through our relationship. And then we can help them think when that happens.
Stay
So
regulated.
stay regulated.
And not your
That's
bowels, but your spirit.
your spirit. You got to stay regulated. Yeah, that's true. But staying regulated with your bowels is important. But you want to stay regulated with it. You want to make sure that you are, when things happen, before you speak, think. Before you speak, think. If I were to say that, how could that be perceived? And just kind of talk through that yourself and then talk.
Absolutely. That's a good lesson to leave us all with. For sure.
Good.
Dr. Dawson, my sweet auntie, my great friend, thank you so much for joining us today. I really
Oh,
appreciate you taking the time out. I appreciate you so much. And we'll talk really, really, really soon about getting you
okay.
back over here to
Okay.
talk with us about some other stuff.
Okay. Sounds great. It has been my pleasure. I'm so glad I was here. I'm so
Good.
glad I was here. Thank you so very much
Yes.
for the
Thank you.
invite.
All right. I'm going to just let you go and then just wrap it up with everyone else, unless you just want to hang tight as I do my goodbyes.
Okay. I want to hear the whole program.
Okay, awesome. All right. So thank you, thank you, thank you, everyone, for coming today. I'm telling you what, when I think about Black trauma, and I've said it many, many times before, we need to really recognize how we need to heal ourselves in this, especially in this world that we live in today. If we haven't been able to figure it out by now, we need each other. It's going to be up to us to take care of each other. No one else is going to take care of us. We have to be there for one another. But as long as we are still carrying around trauma that affects the way we relate to other people, that's going to be a harder hill for us to climb. I always want to get to the point where we can be like those fire ants and less like crabs, where we reach out to make sure that everybody makes it, that it's not just okay that I'm fine, that my kids are fine, but that we're looking out for our community as a whole. And so it all starts with us and understanding how trauma works within us. how we respond to it is really very important. So please think about that. And in the chat, you will see the website for Dr. Carlian's organization here in Arizona. Please click on that, learn more about what she does and that organization does, and then find that same place in your area that you can contribute to. Remember, we're not all going to change the world by ourselves, but we can do one thing. Each of us can do one thing. And you do that one thing, and you will be amazed at the change that you can make. And if you're already doing that one thing, grab a friend and bring them along to do that one thing with you. And if you're like already on top of that and you have a group of people that are already getting together doing that one thing, then I need you on this show, right? Because that's what it's all about. So now remember, no show next week, but I will be back October 1st with Robin Robinson. And I just want to read a little bit about what Robin has done. She's had a commanding presence in the Minnesota arts community as an entrepreneur, advocate, journalist. Let me bring this back up here so you can just see. Oh, wrong one. Woo-hoo. All right. So Robin has, like I said, she's been in the arts community in Minnesota. She's an entrepreneur, an advocate, a journalist, a designer, and a consultant. During her tenure as art director and a consultant at Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport, she received more than $5 million in art commissions for performances, displays, and art installations created by Minnesota and Upper Midwest artists. And if you've seen the mural of Prince in Minneapolis and the mural of George Floyd in Minneapolis, Robin Robinson is the one that made that happen. She has been a respected jewelry designer for more than a decade. She has been on numerous arts boards, including the Walker Arts Center, Minneapolis College of Art and Design, and the Minnesota Museum of American Art, where she served as board chair. Robin is also a freelance writer and a really, really amazing, amazing person. So October 1st, remember, she will be here with us. Again, I'm not on next week, but you can find me on social media in a lot of different places. I'm on Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, and all of the documents here that Dr. Carlian has shared with us, I'm going to put on the YouTube channel. So you'll be able to go listen, send people to listen to this broadcast again, but all the information will be there as well. So again, thank you, thank you, thank you. I always appreciate y'all hanging out on Saturdays. Thank you. And yes, please copy the raid message. Thank you to everyone who's in the chat, who's been talking with each other and engaging with one another. I appreciate all of you so much. Now, we're going to find where we're going to raid out to.
Tawana, can I tell you something? I thought of it. I thought of it. Is that after thriving comes flourishing as a community. We want to flourish. That's where we want to go.
We want to flourish.
We want to flourish.
Absolutely. I love that. So, but beyond thriving, we flourish.
Yep.
All right. So let's find where we're going to raid out to. Oh, I am DJ Ibe. How about that, sweet Jamaica? I am DJ Ibe. DJ Jazzy Jeff. What do you think? Which one? There you go. I am DJ Ibe. We're gonna roll out to him. He plays great music on Saturdays. If you're on Twitch, just hang out, copy that raid message, hang out in his channel for just a few minutes. See if you can feel his vibe. He's an excellent DJ here on Twitch. All right, so we're gonna start the raid now. Thank you again for coming, Dr. Dawson. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.
You're welcome. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, so let me come on. All right, start the raid. This is a raid. All right, we are gone. Enjoy the rest of your day. I appreciate y'all so much out there in YouTube land, Twitterverse. Appreciate you. Bye.